Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thanksgiving. It is somewhere in the 50s, and there's a truck driver by the name of Malcolm McLean crying in his truck because he's been waiting for 8 hours for others to unload and to reload his cargo. All while at home, his family is waiting for him, and the turkey on the table is getting cold. This is all happening in the port of New York. And as you can see, it's a pretty messy, unorganized landscape. So Malcolm had an epiphany while he was crying in his truck. What if, instead of these people unloading and reloading the cargo out of my truck, they could take the entire shipping container off of my truck? This led to the standardization of the shipping container. It would mean that all the trucks, trains, and ships could anticipate the dimensions of the shipping container, making the entire supply chain interoperable and compatible, increasing efficiency dramatically. So as you can see in the Port of New York, before standardization of the container, it was a messy landscape, and after, you can see a beautifully colored Legoland. And the effect? The price per shipped goods globally went down from $6 per ton to $0.16 per ton. So it was 40 times cheaper to move goods globally. This was the start of an economic boom and industrialization. This was globalization. But why am I telling you this story? Fast forward 50 years, we're now in a digital society, and we're trying to achieve the same efficiency and security gains, but this time with data in digital platforms. We're developing protocols, platforms, and models that revolve around auditability, transparency, interoperability, security. And all these models try to aim for more efficient digital marketplaces. But who is going to adopt these protocols? Why? Because we have a couple of really powerful incumbents in the marketplace that love to be the intermediaries in all the data exchange and extract value out of local economies, siphoning them to Silicon Valley. It's because of this impetus. Within the coming years, the EU data strategy is going to put into effect. I'm not talking 5 or 10 years, but literally this year, next year, and the year after. 6 pieces of critical data legislation will be put into effect, all around transparency, accountability, interoperability. We're not going into deep in that right now, because today I'm focusing on one, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, that aims to report the carbon footprint of the entire supply chain. So this means that every origin of every good globally completely needs to be mapped out, the carbon supply chain, the carbon footprint, all the way to the consumer in Europe. So you can understand what a massive undertaking this is. Massive. So many moving parts, so many companies, so many interoperability challenges. So the question then begs, why? Why create all this legislation? Why all these rules? Why not let everybody be free and do whatever they want? Why do we need all this regulation? It's very simple. It's because of this. We are completely left in the dark. There is currently no way for us to see inside databases of trusted third parties. These databases are black boxes. They are siloed. Anything that a company says cannot be verified. There is no way to verify claims made by companies. So we see a black box, we can't look inside it. It's a siloed database. So how are we going to solve this? Because we see a lot of issues in society right now. We see issues around that the rainforest and carbon credits are fraudulent. We see issues around big tech's breach of trust. We see issues where banks are having zero emission pledges, but still they invest in the fossil fuels. We look at H&M that say they're super sustainable, but then they end up being greenwashers. And every other week, there's a customer data leak. 2 weeks ago, Dropbox sign. 2 days ago, I got an email that Dell leaked my customer data. So the issues are everywhere. How are we gonna solve it? What is the solution to propose here? We have to usher in not storytelling, but story proving. Companies should stop telling stories and start proving them. When I went to London 2 days ago, and I went through the customs, I don't expect them to believe me who I am on my bright blue eyes. No. I have to show my passport, a certificate that proves my personhood, who I am. This is the same gonna happen in companies. In 5 to 10 years, companies cannot just tell stories. They need to show the proof, the certificates, the transactions, the events, the notarization of what has happened to show, to prove the stories. So, transparency creates trust, and trust feeds into customer loyalty. And if you don't believe me, believe the 84% of the new buyer generation that says that they trust companies more with transparent and trusted reporting mechanisms. These companies are taking the forward leap. So what we're trying to do here is that we have this current landscape of black boxes where we cannot verify anything. We now are in a point in time where we have to notarize proof of activity happening in these databases. So we can create trusted, transparent, and enlightened databases in a landscape of black boxes. But how are we going to technically do this? This is where mintBlue comes in. My name is Niels Vandenberg. I'm the CEO of mintBlue, and we empower individuals and organizations to take absolute data ownership over your information. We do this in an evolving landscape of regulation and consumer needs. We're working on a data platform that aims to process data fairly and securely at scale, following 3 key pillars. Storage, we can store any type of data, a PDF, a contract, a JSON file, even your favorite movie in MP4 format. We sign it with digital identity, so you can sign with a digital signature, so the data is truly yours, and anyone in the world can authenticate if it's truly from a real person or company. And we tokenize the data, so you can track its entire life cycle all over the internet. Imagine an article being notarized on the chain with a real journalist identity, and you can track the article all over the internet, check for authenticity. So this is what we do for a variety of enterprise and government clients. We work with electronic invoicing, where we authenticate invoices against fraud invoices. We work in payments with Intersolve, and even with governments like the Dutch tax administration. We recently published a report on real-time taxation in the Netherlands. You can have a look there in our booth. The contract is just printed on hard copy, and you can have a read through it. And you can take one with you if you want. But today, we're not going to talk about all of those things. Today, we're focusing on one particular company, Dockflow. And together with them, we've developed a sustainability reporting solution. I want to welcome to the stage the most awesome maritime logistics entrepreneur, a pioneer and a hustler, Pauline from Oostijen.
Thank you, Niels. Thank you, Niels. Disclaimer, I don't usually sound like a chain smoker. I'm just recovering from a really bad cold, but thank you. My name is Pauline van Oostijen. I'm the co-founder of Dockflow. And with Dockflow, we're building the world's first logistics enablement platform. And we do that by letting companies and supply chain teams take back control over their data so that they can take control over their shipments. We've been listed in Forbes 30 Under 30, are winners of the Veuve Clicquot Bold Woman Award, and we're part of the IMEC iStart Accelerator. I have a question for everyone in the room. Who of you has someone in their family, maybe a friend, who knows someone who works in logistics or supply chain? Just raise your hand. Okay, quite a couple of people. Great. Do me a favor. Next time you see them, ask them if they're okay. Ask them how they're doing. Because logistics and supply chain has been a really tough world. It's always been tough, but especially since COVID. The past 2 years, we've had the Ever Given blocking the Suez Canal. We've had a ship full of Rolls Royces sink to the bottom of the seafloor. The war in Ukraine, it's really making it very difficult for all these supply chain teams to really get a grip on things. It's a very chaotic world, and that's reflected in the data as well. That's why Dockflow is helping them by building the world's first logistics enablement platform. We want to make their work a lot more efficient and a lot more pleasant so that they can focus on meaningful tasks and delivering better service to customers. We do that by taking data from many different sources. This can include shipping lines, terminals, even data from satellites to track these vessels. We combine that together and through an AI really comb through the chaos. We bring everything together and take that chaos and bring it into one very user-friendly and very efficient overview so that they can have a very easy access to all of their shipments in a very user-friendly way. We're currently connecting more than 1,500 companies through the Dockflow platform, and more than 200 shipping lines are tracked via Dockflow. This means that last year, in 2023, we've tracked over $16 billion in cargo value. And throughout all these users and all these shipments and all these companies, the main feedback has been that their main issue and the biggest problem in logistics and supply chain today is sustainability. It's very difficult for mid-sized companies to implement tracking of emissions in the right way. It's being required by the CSRD directive from the European Union, so every company in the end will have to start tracking and really do carbon accounting for their emissions, but they don't have the right tools to do that. It's a big challenge. And if they do, there's also a huge issue with fraud in carbon compensation, in the carbon compensation industry. So these are three issues that our customers struggled with and that we took to mintBlue. So we asked mintBlue, how can you help us with these three problems? And I'm inviting Niels back to the stage to explain you everything about that.
Thanks, Pauline. Thank you. Thanks, Pauline, for coming to London, even though you're a bit ill. Thank you. So together with Dockflow, we co-created a sustainability reporting solution. And I'm going to walk you through the solution right now. So what we've done is we've integrated the mintBlue SDK. It's a software development kit. It's a difficult word that developers like to use. And we've integrated that into the Dockflow platform. So now all activity happening on the Dockflow platform is notarized to the public blockchain. Anything. So now Dockflow has a user, Walmart. And Walmart's container is arriving at a certain port. Through the Dockflow platform, now that container arrival is notarized to the public blockchain for full transparency and trust. But they also want a carbon calculation, a carbon footprint, to comply with legislation. And maybe they even want to do some nature compensation. And for that, we have a partner. BigMile is using a mintBlue event listener solution. And BigMile has kind of like this listening ear into the public blockchain, and it listens for relevant events passing by. And then a container from Walmart has arrived. BigMile can take the event, do a carbon calculation, and notarize the proof of the calculation back onto the blockchain attached to the container event. Now, maybe also nature compensation needs to happen. For that, we have another partner, GoForest, again, using a mintBlue event listener solution, listening to the blockchain, and now there's a container passing by with a carbon footprint calculation attached to it, completely in transparent manner. Now, GoForest can plant trees, clean the ocean, do whatever they want, and notarize the proof of what has happened back onto the blockchain. A proof certificate is generated and resurfaced back onto the interface of Dockflow, looking like this. Here we see a maritime logistics certificate, where you can see that a container went from point A to point B. BigMile has calculated the carbon footprint, and GoForest has done nature compensation in the form of planting trees for this one. And here everything can be verified by yourself, by a journalist, by an auditor. It's all accessible and immutable, stored with full provenance on the public blockchain. And you can see how this solution is truly a unique new type of solution. We have 4 independent organizations aligned on a single shared decentralized ledger, where all their events are stored and exchanged with full provenance. These organizations now have an enlightened, trusted database in a landscape of black boxes. And we can see how this not only can work, and it's not really that easy, hard for developers to integrate this yourself. This is a developer UI. This is not what your clients will see. But this developer UI makes it really easy to attach notarization events in your own platform. But it can be anything. It can be Stripe, it can be HubSpot or Salesforce. It's really easy to integrate the mintBlue SDK to your platform and notarize any event that other organizations can pick up and process and trigger, let events trigger. So you can see how this doesn't only apply to maritime logistics, but also to, for instance, flights. Imagine that all the attendees of the London Blockchain Conference would have their flights here notarized onto the public blockchain. Big Mile can notarize and calculate the carbon footprint, and GoForest can do real-time compensation. This could be surfaced on a sustainability dashboard on the domain of the London Blockchain Conference, and you can be truly, provably carbon neutral. Or maybe you are an office chain like WeWork or Spaces, Regus. At mintBlue we are using Spaces. Imagine you have all your offices, the electricity use, notarized on the public blockchain. Big Mile calculating the carbon footprint, and GoForest doing instant nature compensation, all happening in real time. Or imagine you're a big corporate tech company like Deloitte or KPMG. You have 5,000 employees taking trains every week. You want to notarize every train ride, calculate the carbon footprint, and do compensation in a provably carbon neutral manner. So you can see how this is a pretty versatile solution, but it's also pretty complex with a lot of moving parts. You have to have the whole supply chain integrated and connected. And you have to imagine that this is only one of the 6 pieces of critical legislation coming into effect in the coming years. This is only CSRD. We also get the Data Act that enforces data interoperability and standardization. The AI Act that is categorizing AIs on certain risk factors, and also mandates for the certification of training data for authentic training material. Digital Markets Act that aims to regulate gatekeepers out of the European marketplace. The Digital Services Act that is focused on transparency, accountability and trust, where blockchain can be a huge help. The Data Governance Act that is looking more at sharing mechanisms, standards and enforcement. Again, great opportunity for blockchain, and CSRD. So today I talked about the pioneers that take on this CSRD legislation. But we are still looking for the pioneers for all those other 5 pieces of legislation. So take it on, be a future-proof organization, and offer your services onto the public blockchain for full transparency, traceability, and provenance. Because only then we can achieve what Malcolm McLean achieved with maritime logistics. And we can now, in this point in time, decide how to make our society and our data more efficient. Because with fake news and deepfakes and all the troll armies flooding the internet because of AI in the coming years, there is one thing to keep in mind. Storytelling means nothing without proof. Thank you.